Good morning and welcome to Tristar Diggin. I appreciate you joining me today. When I start dragging the toolbox off from the side of the truck to the back of the truck, and then I start carrying what looked like a big old heavy piece of the hog here behind us and set it on the back of the truck, you know that it's going to be an interesting video. Because when I start doing mechanic work, there is no telling what's going to happen, when we're going to get finished, or what kind of disasters that are in store for us. But anyway, what we're going to do today, we're going to get back to work on this old hog. In a previous video, you saw where the braking system, the park brake system, wasn't working. And there were some issues with that. And we're going to kind of work through that today, talk about that, some of the things, the issues with that we encountered with that today as we put this thing back on the truck, and hopefully it's going to work. We're going to get it up here on the hill side of the hill, and we're going to engage that parking brake. And I am hopefully optimistic that when I get on the side of that hill, when I engage that parking brake, it's going to sit there. That'll be a good thing. So what we're in for today is, this is the park brake system off of the old hog, which I guess you need to know what the hog is if you haven't seen it before. This is a JCB 714 off-road haul truck. This is an all-wheel drive truck, and it's an articulating truck, which means it pivots in the middle. Absolutely an awesome truck, and it's a great truck to have to do the jobs that I do. And you've seen it in several of the videos, and see how useful it is. I saw this a truck like this first on the Dirt Boss channel. Mike had one of these called a Hydrema, and then later on Brandon with Elite Earthworks, he bought a Hydrema. It's a similar truck, it's the same size actually, pretty much. And then I just couldn't stand it anymore. I had to buy the hog. I found it on the marketplace and just had to have it. I'm glad I did. It's a great truck. So this is the park brake system. This is the caliper for it. We got to get it back on the truck, and then we got to get these brake pads put in here. And the problem was it wasn't engaging, meaning that this little piston right here wasn't coming out and pushing against these pads, which ultimately push against a rotor or clamp down on a rotor and cause it to stop. What I ended up doing since the last video was completely tearing down this caliper system. And what the major issue was, the reason I couldn't take the pads off in that first video, is that if you look in here, there is a bolt, and then there's a nut on that. That nut was seized, and I couldn't back that nut off. As you can see, I'm turning it now with my finger. I wasn't able to do that, to loosen that, because that has to be loosened so that you can then turn this with a screwdriver, this little bolt right here, which backs that piston out and lets you be able to take the brake shoes out. That was the main problem. I couldn't get the shoes out, so I ended up taking this part off, and then like I said, I tore that completely down. That was interesting. I had no idea what those parts did and what their purpose was, but I did get it apart, I got it cleaned, and hopefully I put it back together right. We'll find out here later today when we start to engage this thing. But anyway, what we've got to do, I got to get back under the truck and get this put back on, get everything hooked back up, get those brake pads put back in there, and see if this thing's going to work. First thing we want to look at is some of the parts that we're going to need to make sure that we get put back together right. And then also, we got to learn how to bleed that brake system as well. And what I did was, back when I was working on this, I downloaded or bought a download, which is a parts manual and service manual for the truck. And that has helped me out a lot about putting the thing back together and actually taking it off and putting it back together. Let's take a look at some of the things that we need to figure out first. This is the part that I'm looking for right here. This is the brake caliper system for the parking brake. And when we took this apart, there's a bolt here, and there's a bolt here that actually hold the caliper onto a bracket underneath the truck. And there's also a set screw right here, or a bolt, I guess you would call it, that when you get this tightened up where it needs to be, this bolt actually pushes against the caliper and kind of helps square it up, I guess is the best way to say it. And this bolt is actually in there, but if you notice, there's a nut on this side and a nut on this side. And those are jam nuts. So when you get this bolt where it needs to go, you tighten that nut and you tighten that nut, and that holds that bolt in place where it needs to go. Now then, let's crawl in here under the truck, and we'll take a look at exactly where that is if I don't fall, and then see what we got to do to fix that. Oh, bumped my head. Okay, we are under here now, and this is where that caliper sets. And that bolt that I was just talking about is right there. So the bolt is there. You can see that on both sides. I'm gonna have to take that bolt out and then find a nut that'll fit that and put that on the back side here and on the front side. Let's get that taken off, and then we will see if we can find a nut for that. That's the first place we want to start. Okay, we got that off, and one thing we got going good for us is there's actually the nut is on the outside of it. So I just got to find one to go on the inside. That's good, I didn't even see that. One thing I need to do right off the bat is get some of these little rocks out of the way. I'm trying to roll my creeper around underneath the truck, and it's like running over a mountain trying to get a wheel across one of those little bit of rocks. Let's get this stuff out of my way. Now then, that should help. Let's get to the task at hand and finding a nut that goes on the other side of that bolt. One thing I talked about in the previous video when I did a kind of walk around of tools and stuff that I carry in my truck, one of the things I talked about was carrying around a couple boxes or a box of just assorted nuts and bolts. And that's what we have here. This thing is just chock full of bolts and nuts, just random parts. I bought these at auction, came across these. Anytime I see something like this in an auction, I try to buy that, because you never know when you're going to need just a random nut or bolt. Out working in the woods, sometimes you break a bolt. This may not be the right size bolt, but that'll get you back to the truck sometimes. So it never hurts to carry some of these around. We'll dig around in here and see if we can find, you know, that one right there looks pretty promising actually. No, it's not even close, it's small. We're gonna dig around in here a little bit. If it's nothing in this one, I do have another one in the truck. We'll get it out and check in it. Voila, there we have it. I found it. Didn't take long. We got us a nut there to put on that bolt, and we're in good shape. We can move forward now. Now then, to make that a little bit easier to put back together, I need to clean it up so that it'll screw back on there better. You saw when I was taking it off, I did that mostly with my hand, and it got to the point though that I couldn't get it off. So we'll get this thing cleaned up right real good. Then once I get it cleaned up, I'm going to spray it with some, this is probably some of the best stuff I've ever come across. It's a rust and corrosion protection, but it also is a lanolin based. And this stuff works great, but that's the name of it, if you can see that in what it's called. This stuff works great. And I use it a lot on my chain buckles where I'm bucking down chains, and those ratchets, they get kind of rusty or whatever. This stuff you can spray on them. It's not like other lubricants that just kind of wash off. That lanolin really makes that stuff stay on those chain buckles a lot better and lasts a lot longer, and it makes them work really good as well. Have I mentioned that it's October 31st and it's going to be 72 degrees today? I reckon summer's just going to hang around with us for the rest of the year. Man, it's been warm and dry. We've had a little bit of rain, but not much to brag about. Once you get it to that lanolin and free that thing up, it works great. Now then, that's good and clean. We'll get that put back on the truck, and we'll see what we're gonna do next with it. All right, we've got that run through there now and got that nut on that side. We are good to go with that. This is going to be the hardest part of the whole job. Is I don't know how I'm going to hold this thing up to put it underneath the truck and lift it up there where it needs to go. That thing right there is heavy. I guess for now, we'll just push it up here where it needs to go, and then we'll think about it for a minute. Oh, that thing's heavy. Okay, the only thing I know to do is grab it and growl. Oh my gosh, that thing's heavy. Ooh. Oh, bolts need to be pushed back just a little bit. Wow, that thing's heavy. Oh golly. If I can get one, oh, got it. Woo! Man, I got one in. Let's get that other one in. Boy, this is not something you want to drop on yourself. I guarantee you that. Oh, get in there. Tell you what I better do. I better get a nut on the back side of that first one, just so it don't fall out. There we go. That'll hold it in there. Now I need to wiggle this around, get that top one in there. Come on, get in there. You know what? That bolt I put in there is kind of in the way. Back that out just a little bit. Now let me see. Ooh. All right, it's in there. Let's get that top bolt on. Oh. Good. Woo. Now then, we got that in place. That's going where it needs to go. I need to get the right wrenches to tighten this bolt up here and here, get that tight. And then this caliper is made, because this don't fit tight and flush against this bracket right here. That caliper is made to move back and forth on this bolt right here. So all I'm really doing is tighten down this bolt. There's a flanged end that tightens down against this. Then, like I said, this thing floats back and forth on top on those bolts. If I remember right, I was having trouble finding a wrench to fit this nut right here that goes on this bolt. It's not 1 1/4 inches, it's not 1 1/8 inches, and I don't have a metric handy that's big enough for it. But I do have a fit-all. This fit-all will work just fine. As a matter of fact, I think that's what I used to take it off. It'll work. All right, let's, before we get it out of whack here, let's tighten up this top one. Ooh. Sometimes you just feel like you need 3 hands. That'd be handy, wouldn't it? Oh, I think we got it. We're close. Yep. Okay. All right, that is snug. We're gonna go with snug for now until I can get those brake pads in there, seated in place, get that pin through it. I might need to loosen that and wiggle it a little bit, I don't know. And then the next thing we need to do is the hydraulic line, which is right here. I've got a plug in it and a plug where it goes into the caliper. And then we're gonna lose a little bit of fluid when I pull that out. But I'll get it real quick and get it pushed back in there. And then we gotta figure out how to bleed this. And it won't be long, folks, and we'll be ready to try this thing out. While I'm taking a break here, I want to mention some elk. I got an email last week from Shelly up in Sunset, South Carolina. And Shelly said that her husband Clayton watches the channel a lot. So Clayton, I appreciate that. And she actually said she enjoys the message at the end of the video, so that makes her a fan as well. So, hey, I appreciate you guys watching the channel. It really means a lot to me for folks that are supporting the channel. And Shelly wanted to order a hat. She said her husband's birthday's coming up on November the 12th. So happy birthday, Clayton. I believe you'll get the hat before then, but you'll probably see this, video message even before that. I hope I didn't spoil any surprises, Shelly. But anyway, he ordered a blue hat. And you're in good company, Clayton, because there's another fella that wears a blue hat, and it's this guy right here. All right. You guys recognize old Aaron there, man behind the scenes from Dirt Perfect channel. Oh, Aaron wears my hat pretty regular, and I appreciate that. Mike has hats as well, and he's worn those quite a bit in some previous videos. I appreciate Mike and Aaron supporting Tristar Diggin channel by wearing my hat. That means a lot, and I really appreciate that. And there's times when old Aaron gets a hold of Mike's camera, and there's no telling what he's going to say or what he's going to do. I really appreciate those guys, and if you're over there on Dirt Perfect channel and you get a chance to talk to them, tell old Aaron and Mike we appreciate them supporting Tristar Diggin. It really means a lot to us. But Clayton, we'll get this hat sent out to you. So appreciate you guys watching, and if anybody else is interested in Tristar Diggin hat, I've got the gray ones, and also got the blue ones like you just saw man behind the scenes there modeling for us. So hats are $26, that includes shipping, and I'll put my email address there on the screen, tristardiggin@gmail.com. Reach out to me and we'll get you hooked up on a hat as well. Now then, let's get this Dr. Pepper finished, and I got a Twix and a Snicker bar here to knock out right quick. They're little ones, they're not great big ones. And then we're gonna get back to working on this truck and see if we can't get this thing going today. Now then, we've crawled back under the truck and we're gonna see if we can't get these pads back in there. One thing I want to mention, let me scoot back out here. I want to talk about these pads just for a second and bring you up to speed on those. So in the original video there, when I took the truck apart, I mentioned that I had already priced these pads through the JCB dealership, and they were like $600-700 bucks. Look at these. I mean, they're just little bitty brake pads. Way too expensive, and I thought that was completely ridiculous. So anyway, I got to looking online, and I actually mentioned it to you guys on the video there, and some of y'all have sent me some good information. One guy, matter of fact, sent me some information. I forget which website it was, something like Tractor something website, and they were on there, and I actually made contact with them. But the problem is they were like $200 and something, plus taxes and shipping was gonna put me over $300 for those pads. And I'm just not ready to spend that kind of money yet on this until I make sure that caliper is going to work. I don't have leaks. There's not issues with it. And then if you can tell on this pad, there's actually a little bit, and somebody pointed that out as well in the video, there's actually a little bit of meat left on these pads. And it's not like these pads are friction pads in that rotor is spinning and you engage the brake and it clamps down and that rotor continues to spin against that pad. That's not the case for these particular pads. Because when you engage these pads, you're already stopped. And the only thing these do is hold the truck in place when it squeezes on that rotor under there and keeps the truck from rolling. So with what little bit of meat is still on this, I can still get by with this for a little while. Make sure it's gonna work right, and then we can get some of those new pads ordered. Another option is to have these resurfaced. I did check on that with a company that's close by, actually in Chattanooga. And it's one of those situations where you reach out to somebody and they don't get back with you. I don't know how much it's going to cost to resurface the pads. Anyway, that's the story on those and the update as far as that goes. Let's get them on here and see if it's actually going to work. We're back here in the truck now, and I've got that bolt in this caliper here. I've got that bolt backed all the way out so that when I put these pads in there, they should fit without any problems hitting on that bolt. Let's see what happens here. So far, we got a problem. Let me look into that and see what that is. See if I can get it to go in on the other side. This one go in on the other side of that rotor. All right, that one went in fine. Let me figure out why this one won't go in, and I'll get right back with you. I'm back. What I said about having that rotor backed all the way out, or that bolt backed all the way out, I was not right on that. So I got my little stubby screwdriver here. I don't know if y'all can see in there or not, but I'm trying to twist that bolt back and see if I can get that thing to go in there. Still got a little bit. I'm sure there's a tool made for reaching in there like that right there. I obviously don't have it, but it is turning. All right, it slid in. It is in, folks. We got that. Good deal. Now the next thing we do is we gotta slide this pin in this little access hole right here through the caliper till it touches that. Oh, that went in perfect. I don't know if y'all saw that or not, but that hit just exactly right. And then it slides on into this next pad. Oh, it went in there good too. Now then, there's a Carter pin. If I can spin this around, I can't right now. But anyway, I'll spin this pin around till I find that hole for that Carter pin. We'll stick a Carter pin in that and fasten that so it won't slide back out. And we should be good to go. Those pads are in. That is fantastic. You know, there's a lot of cool things about starting a YouTube channel and putting videos on there and growing a channel. One of the benefits is that you can, if you did a video on a job, you can go back and look at the job and see see how you took something apart, or see where things come from. Case in point, I found this bolt laying on the frame of the old hog back there a second ago, and I have no idea where that bolt came from. So I'm gonna go back and look at the video and see where that came from. And also, when it's putting that pin in to hold those pads, it goes in a certain place, and that cotter pin goes in there to keep those pads from sliding out. So I also want to find that out. So what we're going to do is go to the Tristar Diggin homepage and scroll through here until we find the video. And I think that was it right there. Let's check that out. Welcome to Tristar Diggin. I appreciate you joining me today. Let's scroll a little bit forward. Yep, there we go. All right, let me find the part we're looking for, and we'll watch it together. Okay, I have found the part. Let's take a look here and see what we need to do. What we're trying to accomplish is get this little rod out right here that holds those pads in there, and just simply, those pads will then just slide out. Let's figure out how to get that rod out, and then come back, we'll get that took care of. That looks to be pretty simple. I just got to spin it around here where I can get that pin out. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for right there. That should just slide to my right. Shouldn't be a problem at all. Yep, there it is. So that cotter pin is on the left side of that squeeze together pad right there that's against this frame where we put it on. That rod turned back around here now. And then just grab that pin with my multi-purpose tool here and pull it right straight out. There you go. Got that pin out now. That solves it. I got that part figured out, and I'll have to scroll back through here a little ways and see where this came from. Let's get that pin put back in there, get those pads locked in place, get everything tightened down, and then we'll look about getting that brake fluid line hooked into the caliper. I went ahead and pulled that pin back out there now, so you can get a good look at it and see that hole right there. Can you see me through? Can you see me through that hole? Oh, sometimes I ain't right, I guess. So what I've done is I went to my truck, and this is something else that I do too, is that I generally buy assortment packs of little tools and things that I need. In this situation, this is little cotter pins, and there's an assortment of them. I also do that with those hitch pins, I guess you call them, and grease fittings and different things. I just buy an assortment pack. One thing I do need to buy is an assortment pack of the O-rings for like hydraulic fittings and stuff. What we want to do now, I got distracted there. What we want to do now is find the right size pin that'll go through there, and then we'll be able to crawl back underneath the truck. And some reason or other, these things have got all mixed up. That's all right. We'll find the right one here just directly. That one's almost it, but not quite. Now then, going through these cotter pins, these are the two sizes that I have, the bigger one and the littler one. The big one it's just barely too big to go through there. And then the littler one, it will almost go all the way through. I don't have an in-between. I'd rather have this bigger one than to have the little one. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a file and just file down the top edge of this and maybe a little bit on the bottom of it there. So that will slide in better because it's better to have that one in there. Let me get that took care of, and then we'll get that, see if we can get that thing to fit in there. Right now it won't. All right, I was looking around there, and why use a hand file when you can use a grinder? That's my philosophy. That should be enough. Let's try it out and see. Just a little bit more. There we go. That'll work. I'll get that put back through there now, and we will get it fixed up. Spin that around right there so we can get a hold of it and bend it back. And spin it back the other way. Good to go. We got that in there. Oh, and by the way, I watched a little bit more of that video. I still don't know where that bolt goes. I guess that's just gonna be one of them parts that's left over. Got that put back in there now. I'm gonna do the messy part, crawl under there and get that hydraulic line hooked back up to that caliper, and then we'll read a little bit more in that instruction manual and see how it is we go about bleeding that caliper out. Before I crawl under there though, have you seen the video where I demoing this Birch GROLAR bicycle? This is an electric bike. This bike is specifically made and marketed towards hunters and people in the outdoors that want to go off-road. You know, there's a lot of electric bikes that are on-road and trails. This one is specifically built and designed for hunting and taking it off-road. And my plan for this bike is when I get that bike rack in, I'm going to adapt it to fit that dozer blade, fit on the dozer blade and also on the bucket of the excavator. So when I go a good distance away from my truck where I'm unloading, I don't have to walk so far back. And there's sometimes I have jobs that are up steep hills that I cannot get my truck and trailer up there. So I have to park and unload at the bottom of the hill, move the machine up top of the hill, and then walk all the way back down that hill. And then at the end of the day, I got to walk. So anyway, that is going to be, that's going to be a game changer for me as far as having to walk in and out of these jobs so much. I have partnered with this company, Birch Bike Company. It's an electric bike, and there's a previous video where I did a reveal on it. And then as I use that bike even more, I'm going to get to the point where I get really comfortable with the operation of it and everything about it. And then I'll do a full walk around review of it. But if you want to go ahead and check that out, I'm going to post a link in the comment section to get to their website. And also there's a $200 discount code. Tristar will be that code, and it'll be in the comment section as well. Check them out and see if that's something that might work for you. Better go ahead and get a rag. I know it's going to be messy. And let's crawl back under here and see about hooking up that line. Oh, Diesel, are you doing anything today other than just walking around? Well, here we go. This plug was just to keep the trash out of that, well, before I put it back together, because there's no oil in it. This one, on the other hand, when I take that out, there's probably gonna be oil going everywhere. So let's do this kind of quickly. Yep, just what I thought. Maybe I can get that on. Oh yeah, that wasn't too bad. That's tightened up, finger tight. That's good to go. And as a matter of fact, I have my fit all under here. Let's just put the fit all on it and tighten that up while we're here. I'd say a man could wrench that off pretty quick with those threads with that fit all right there. That's probably tight enough. There's a bleed screw right here. Then I'm gonna figure out what I need to do as far as bleeding that, and then see if we can get some brake action here. Oh, before I even get close to doing that, I've got to make my adjustments on this bolt right here to squeeze those pads together. And then I got this bolt back here, remember, I got to get it fixed too. Let me figure out how to do that. Spend a few minutes here looking over the directions on how to adjust the brakes and also how to bleed the air out of the system. Let's take a look at that, talk about that for a second, and then there's one part we're going to have to figure out how to do. Okay, so you look here at this diagram. This is what it looks like underneath. I'll probably do a side-by-side so you can actually look at the caliper as I'm talking about it. But these are the two main bolts that we put in. First of all, this is the caliper here. This is that pin we just put in a second ago. These are those two main bolts that come through there. This is that little bolt that we worked on trying to find the nut for and got it to freely move back and forth. What it says, once you get this bolt type, is that that big nut and bolt back here in the back, which is right here. We take this bolt back here and tighten it clockwise until we have 32 hundredths of an inch clearance between the rotor and the pad. 32 hundredths. That's pretty precise. We're just going to tighten it up till it's snug on that part. And then after we do that, after you get the 32 hundredths of an inch on that side, we come over here to this bolt. You got to make sure this nut and this nut are loose so that you can screw this in. That's supposed to be screwed in to where it puts pressure on the back side of the caliper here. And then you want to measure 16 hundredths of an inch here on this pad and 16 hundredths of an inch here on this pad as well. That's even tighter tolerance, and we're going to go snug with that as well. Then after we get all that snugged up to where it needs to be, we'll come back over here, and then that nut that was on that bolt back here, we'll tighten that nut up so that that bolt in there can't move that caliper any longer. And then we should have the proper clearance in here so that when we do get the system bled, that it can squeeze on that rotor and keep the truck still. Let's crawl under here now and see if we can get that part done, and then rather than confusing all that information with bleeding it, we will read the instructions on bleeding it once we get this done. What I'm going to try, I've got a big screwdriver fit in there, and that's actually kind of working to turn that in there. Can y'all see that? Oh, so that's working, and maybe you can see it's tightening up against that pad, squeezing a little bit. Yeah, I saw that move. That's working pretty good. That's as tight as I can get it without it slipping off with this big screwdriver. And I did find a handy dandy little Z-shaped screwdriver in my truck a second ago, which if I had a bigger version of that, that would be fantastic, but I don't. Let's see what I can do here about getting it a little tighter. That's actually working. Is I'm just going to snug that pad up against that rotor and then back it off just a little bit. That's my plan. That's actually working pretty good. That big old, that little bitty screwdriver. Go a little bit more. All right, that's tight. Now then, well, what I need to make sure is that's not tight against it. All right, that's not tight against it. And let me just check one more time. Yeah, that's tight. All I want to do is just back it off just a little bit right there, so that there's a little bit of play. That might be too much. All right, there's a little bit of play right there. I'm gonna snug it one more time right there. That took the play out of it. That's where I want it. And then, now then you see there's a lot of play in that one. There's none in that one. That one's fine. I got just a tiny bit of wiggle, which is good. This one here is moving a lot. So the plan is now is to take this bolt right here and screw it in, because it's threaded into this, and screw it into this, which will push this over and put some tension on this pad. All right, I'm gonna tighten that down pretty snug. And what that did was it loosened up this one right here. I don't know, but I'm gonna try to figure this out. Now then, that one's got a little bit of play. I'll tighten it back up a little bit more right there. Took the play out of it, and now I'm gonna tighten this one back up. Let me get this figured out, and we'll see if I get it get it fixed where it needs to be. I got this one adjusted. There's just a little bit of play in that one, and just a little bit in that front one there. And I'm not too overly concerned if those are a little too tight. All it's going to do is do a little bit more wear on those pads that are already worn out. Like I mentioned, the goal is just to see if this is going to work, and if it's working properly and it will hold the truck, I'll get some new pads or get some new meat put on these pads. But that's the plan, and that will work even if it's a little too tight. Now then, let's see if I've got the right socket to fit that nut in there. No, that's too big. Let's try this one here. Let's try this one here. Yep, that's it. Now then, I want to get that tightened so that that bolt that I screwed in to tighten up that pad can't back out or get any tighter. Got this big old wrench on it now. We just want to, I think it's turning that bolt too. Yeah, that's getting tighter. All right, that's puts up an interesting little situation here. How in the world will I ever tighten that nut on that bolt without it screwing in to tighten that pad anymore? Interesting. I'll think about that for a minute and see what I can figure out. Okay, and I suppose there's a specialty tool for trying to do what I'm doing, but I don't have it. I've got to improvise. So here's the position we find ourselves in and what I'm trying to do. So what we have in that caliper is a bolt. So we've got that bolt in through there, and this is the brake pad. It's pushing against that brake pad to make that work. So you get this adjusted where you want it to, and it's pushing against that pad and you get the right clearance. Then on the back side of that, as I've been showing there, there's a nut that comes up against the back of the caliper and locks this bolt in place. What's happening is when I get this bolt adjusted like I want it and I go to tighten this nut, it's turning the bolt with it, which is putting more pressure on that brake pad. So what I've got to come up with is a way to hold this bolt while I tighten this nut. Currently what I'm doing is putting this socket on the back of that nut and using this wrench to tighten it. Well, that's just spinning that bolt. I can't have that. What I've got to come up with is a way to hold that bolt with the screwdriver. So what my plan is to put this screwdriver in here and hold it, and then I'm going to make some cuts on this socket, cut this down flat up here, cut it down flat up here, so then I can get this wrench on it, and then I'll be able to turn that socket and not have to use this. I hope that made sense. It does up here, and I don't even know if it's going to work. Worst case scenario, I mess up a socket that's a cheap old socket made in China. No to send it back to them anyway. But that's where we are. I got to do some cutting here and some cutting here, and then we're going to see if that'll work. Dead battery. Another dead battery. Wow. I'm gonna find a battery that's actually got a little juice in it and get this tool cut out here, and we'll get back to it. And I guess in this situation, if you don't have a tool, I guess you just try to make one. It's, oh, wow. I got that cut off now. Let's see if our fit all is gonna fit that. Oh yeah, like a glove, look at there. Nice. I'm imagining that's pretty hot right now. I'm gonna let that cool off for just a minute, and we'll get crowd back under there and see if we get this done. All right, while I was letting that new tool cool off there, I decided to try out the bike a little bit and have a little bit of fun. Learn this thing a little bit more, and wow. I actually found the settings in the little computer control system that's on it, and I knew in videos that I had watched on this that folks were running them up to 30 miles an hour, and when I was riding this one before, I had it at 20 miles an hour, and I said, well, I can't figure out how to make it go any faster. Well, I figured that out. I got it up to 30 miles an hour now. Also, something pretty cool about this bike is it has dual motors. What I mean by that, it has an electric motor on the rear, and it also has an electric motor on the front. And unbeknownst to me, until I started playing with it there and trying to figure it out a little bit more, it was only pulling on the rear wheel. Well, I figured out in the settings how to set it to have the front wheel pulling as well. And then I also found some settings that makes it more responsive when you twist its ear. An unbelievable difference in what that thing does now. It's absolutely incredible, the pulling power this thing has going up a hill. Now let me just show you right quick what I mean by both front and rear pulling, if I can get it kind of balanced here on the stand. But if you see that, you start off like that. You see how quickly that accelerates? That's pretty cool. I found that setting in there that adjusts how quickly it takes off when you engage the motors. And I've got to do that again just because that's cool. I mean, that thing takes off. We'll get it out here in a day or two and do a full video on it. Man, that thing's cool. And here's the moment of truth. We're gonna find out if my new tool works. I got that in there where I want it, and it's on the, I think it's on the nut now. Yeah, let's make sure this is where I want it here. Yeah, that's fine. Got enough play in that. The plan is, let me spin this around where I can get my wrench on it. Right there should be good. And put the screwdriver goes in here like that. And let me set this thing down, we'll put that wrench on it. Now then, let's get that where we want it. And let's see if this wrench is going. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's gonna work great. That worked pretty good. That if you can see now, that wrench goes up in there. I don't know how well you can see, but now then it fits in there just perfect. I just got to take a few minutes here and get that exactly adjusted like I want it, and then work on this and get it tight. And then we'll be back. I got that set where I want it now and got that tightened down. Looks like it's in pretty good shape, at least for our test, to make sure that it's going to work, and then we'll fine tune it when we get the new pad to put on it. I've been reading over the bleeding of the caliper instructions. Let's kind of go over that and kind of figure out what we're going to do with that. Basically what it's saying here is you take a clear piece of hose and stick over the bleed nipple and run that into a clear container, and then open that bleed valve, and then you go into the truck and then you flip the parking brake in the on position. And then when you flip the brake into the on position, unlike brakes like a vehicle or truck or whatever, you don't have to pump up and hold and bleed off and then tighten it down and let off. So apparently this applies continuous pressure and flow to that caliper, so that when you turn that nipple open, it's just going to keep pushing pressure to it. And that's good, because what's going to happen is it's going to push all the air out, and then when it's a continuous flow or pressure of just fluid, you can tighten that back down, and you're good to go, apparently what the directions are saying here. But here's the part that troubles me. It says open the bleed valve and ask a competent colleague. We're in trouble right there. I'll read that again. Open the bleed valve and ask a competent colleague to set the parking brake switch to the on position. Well, the only person we have here today to help us with is Diesel. I don't know how competent he is, but we're going to give this a shot. I think what my plan is set the GoPro camera up down there so I can watch the camera, flip the switch on, and I should be able to see from the camera here when there's a continuous flow going into that container and no air. We're going to give it a test run here and see what happens. I think I'm ready now to get the engine started up, and basically what it said is to start the engine. Oh, my bottle's flowing away here. Start the engine, let it run for a few minutes there and charge up the hydraulic pressure system on the engine. And the way I read this, the kind of way that it works is when the engine's running and the parking brake is in the off position, it keeps a continuous flow of pressure to that braking system. So when you engage the parking brake into the on position, it releases that pressure and allows the springs to push against those brake pads. So it works a little backwards, a little bit different than what I actually thought it did. So kind of to re-explain that, when the parking brake is off, there's continuous hydraulic pressure to that caliper, keeping the brake pads off of it. When you engage or put the parking brake on, you're releasing the pressure of the hydraulic system, and it's putting pressure on the pads. That's kind of the way that I understand it. Let's see if these things are going to start up. I haven't started this thing in a while, so I'm not sure what's going to start up or not. And by the way, I found me here's some competent help. I don't know how competent he's going to be, but he came to look at that bike because he's interested in buying one. This is Josh Satterfield, and Josh is the guy that bought my chicken farm. And actually, his grandpa watches the channel. What was your grandpa's name again?
Ray Connor.
Ray Connor. So Ray, if you're watching this, there he is. He's famous now. So we're going to use Josh here in just a minute. He didn't know it, but he's come to look at that bike, but he's going to help me out with his brake system here just for a few minutes. I'm going to see if this thing's going to start, and we'll go from there. In the machine here, and you can hear behind me it's buzzing, and we've got lights on. Let's see if we're going to get this thing started. Oh yeah. I am actually very shocked the truck started. It says shut down. Wait a minute. Hold up. No, that's fine. We'll let the system charge up just a minute, and then we'll try this out and see if it's going to work. So Josh has been riding the bike there for a few minutes, and I've changed the power settings from what it was at pretty much full power. He rode it that way first, and then I put it back down to what it was when I first got it, and we'll get his take on it when he comes back, what he thinks about the different power settings. Don't wreck. We'll go down here where he's going to park at, and we'll talk to him about it. All right, so what do you think about the different power settings?
Significant difference.
Yeah.
But
what'd you call that when you come up the road there?
I think it's a granny setting.
It's on the granny setting now.
But throw you off anyway. And
so the difference between rear wheel drive and both wheels turning, what's the difference in that?
Oh, huge difference. It's like being 4-wheel drive and in a Jeep or something.
Yeah, you can actually, when you accelerate hard, you can actually feel that front tire spinning just a little bit to get traction. But it is, we've been messing around with it here a little while, and I think I sold the first one. I think Josh is gonna buy one. You gonna buy one, Josh?
Half off. Half off.
He gets a $200 discount if he uses Tristar. So we'll get back to work on this truck. We did tinker around with the truck a little bit. We did get the system bled. I got a little bit more to figure out as far as putting the brake on and taking it off and getting that exactly adjusted where it needs to be. But we'll get back on that here in a minute. Got the truck running behind me here. I think we're ready to do a test on this parking brake. I hope it works anyway. I had trouble getting the truck started after we shut it off that first time. You turn the key and it click, you turn the key and it's click. I checked the batteries, got 24 volts, batteries are fine. There's something between the switch and the starter that's not engaging the starter. Anyway, you got to click, 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 and it'll finally start. So it's running, and I fooled with the adjustments a little bit more there. I think our problem is the pads are so worn out that we've run out of adjustment. I'm hoping it's going to hold a little bit to at least give me the encouragement to go ahead and buy pads for it. But anyway, let's get it out here and get it tested and see if it's going to hold. Okay, I'm gonna pull down there where y'all are at, and then I'm gonna stop, take it out of gear, and then we're gonna see. I'm on a pretty good hill here. We're gonna see how much it rolls. All right, I got the regular brakes pressed. This is what happens when you let off the brake. It begins to roll pretty good. Now then, I'm gonna stop and engage the parking brake and let off. Here we go. Hey, it sets here. That is fantastic. All right, we're sitting here without any brakes applied other than parking brake. Now then, what I'm gonna do is let it go like that, and we start rolling. I'm going to back up and start rolling a little bit, not press my regular brakes, but just engage the parking brake, see what happens here. All right, y'all ready? Here we go, parking brake now. Oh yeah, that is fantastic. Okay, folks, there we go. That is the first time since I've owned that truck that it's sitting on a hill by itself. We'll pull up right in front of the camera here, and I don't know if you can tell how steep it is, but it's fairly steep right here. I'm gonna stop with the regular brakes, take it out of gear, engage the parking brake, and let go of the brakes. It sits here. That is fantastic. I love it. Okay, well there it is, sitting on a hill, a steep hill, and all by itself with the parking brake engaged. That's fantastic. Although, if it was to let go, it's gonna run right through my barn. Let me get this thing in a little better position, and we'll talk a little more about this. Okay, safe and sound in the barn now with the parking brake on. I did try to start it again after I shut off and got that clicking sound. Maybe the solenoid gone bad on the starter, I don't know. That's something else to fix. I'm just completely excited that that parking brake actually works after spending all day working on it. That's been a job figuring all that out, but it's working fine now. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that video there. Get the old hog going again, get the brake system fixed on it. And I appreciate you sticking around for the message. The message that you're gonna see that immediately follows this is actually from another video that I made and had it ready to go in place of this one. And it was a situation where a president of a homeowners association came down to a property where I was burning some brush and started a confrontation, and it didn't go well. It didn't go well at all. So I decided not to show that video in its entirety just because of just the potential of him causing me some problems, because it probably would have caused him some embarrassment and some, you know, some issues that it could have caused me some problems. So I'm not going to show the video, but it is worth showing the message from what I talk about, because in the message I talk about my fault as well and the issues that I had. So here's the message, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you get something from it, and I sure did. I sure got my toes stepped on. So here it is. Many of you that watch my channel, watch the videos, you know that I do a message at the end of my videos, and that's a very important part of my channel and part of my videos, is to share my faith in the way that we live in this world that we're living in. And in this situation, I failed. I failed to live out to the example that the Bible would leave for us in that confrontation. And as I said a minute ago, I let him bait me into that. And I should have kept my peace, held my tongue all the way through that thing. But to be honest, I did it as long as I don't know. I don't want to make an excuse. I got to a point to where I just couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't take it anymore. And so I just needed this man to leave. And matter of fact, at the end you saw that. I just told him he needed to leave. So that's the situation that we find ourselves in. And the passage of scripture that I want to talk about in the message today, we find that in Romans chapter 12, starting about verse 17. And it says this, and the whole time this was going on, I knew this scripture. It was in the back of my mind, and I was reminding myself of it. And it says in verse 17, it says, repay no evil for evil. I messed up right there. I messed up at the very beginning. Repay no evil for evil. Have regard for good things in the sight of all men. Verse 18, this is the part that I really want to talk about. If it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Did you get that? It had nothing to do with that man. It had everything to do with me and the way that I reacted to it. Listen, it says, if it's possible, as much as depends on you, which was me in that situation, live peaceably with all men. That included him. So knowing that scripture and knowing that was in the back of my mind the entire conversation that I was having with him, I should have just lived that on out and been the example that the scripture calls me to be. That doesn't mean that I'm perfect, and I do make mistakes, and I recognize those and I admit those when they come, and that's what I'm doing in this situation, is that I should have handled that a lot differently. Now I want to read the commentary, what it says about the situation, about that in verse 18, talking about if it is possible. It says, although we should do everything possible to be at peace with others, it will not always come, because it always depends on the other's attitude and responses. And that's where we find ourselves in this situation. There was no working this out with that man. That was not going to happen. When he asserted or made it abundantly clear that he was going to basically punish the property owner with an assessment of money, and he was going to make sure that the contractor that I was working for would never get anything approved in subdivision. That conversation and that interaction that he and I had nothing to do with the property owner. It had nothing to do with the builder, the contractor that I was working for. But that was just evidence to me that he was not going to stand for anything else than to assert his authority and assert his power, as a homeowner president, I suppose, has, and was going to punish somebody. I saw that from him when the moment he walked up. But as I said, I let myself go in the middle part of that conversation to where I fed right into it and to begin to argue with him and to have this confrontation with him that wasn't going to go anywhere. It just simply wasn't going to go anywhere. In hindsight, I should have just held my peace and basically should have probably just not said anything. And just say, you need to contact the builder and the property owner. I'm here doing a job. But I didn't, and I've learned from that. And I hope that through this video, and especially through this message, that it's caused you to stop and think about the way that we react and the way that we act in this world. We live in a violent, evil, hateful world. And as a Christian, I am not supposed to take part of that. It says, repay no evil for evil. So in these messages in the past, I've had a number of comments where people said, boy, that was a strong message and you really stepped on my toes. Well, in this one, I got my own toes stepped on pretty good. So anyway, I hope that you're trusting in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior today. If you're not, that's the most important decision you can ever make in your life, is place your faith and trust in Him and to know Him as Lord and Savior and act a little differently than I did. So God bless you, and I appreciate you watching.